A sharp, dry rip sliced through the boarding hallway like a blade tearing open the air. The boarding pass was snatched from her hand, torn apart, and the pieces drifted to the floor like an insult made visible. A few passengers flinched and turned. Some stopped mid-step. A young woman covered her mouth. Phones rose into the air. And at the center of that frozen, cutting moment stood Dr. Maya Thompson, motionless spine straight, her dark eyes calm and razor-sharp as she looked directly at the woman who had just crossed an unforgivable line. Lauren Shaw, chief flight attendant, 45 years old hair, sprayed into a stiff golden helmet, like the armor of someone who had lived too long on borrowed authority. She hid nothing, no shame, no fear. Only a thin, venomous smile stretched across a single breath. I already told you. Seat 8. Bravo is not for you. You're on the wrong flight. Her voice rang out sharp and loud, on purpose meant for the surrounding crowd to hear. It was a public verdict, a courtroom sentence delivered right there on the cold metal walkway between airport and aircraft. Maya lifted her head. Not in defiance, but with the look of someone who understood that this moment wasn't just happening to her. It had happened far too many times to far too many others. It was the gaze of someone who carried a silent power the other person could never comprehend. She didn't speak immediately. She simply looked through Lauren as if she were examining a technical malfunction rather than a human being. A serious failure, a risk to the system. Lauren felt it, and that sensation alone made her furious. "Did you not hear me? Step back. We're boarding. You're blocking other passengers." A middle-aged man behind them cleared his throat. "Yeah, just do what she says." Maya turned her head, her eyes soft but sharp. The man instantly looked away. She bent down, collected the shredded pieces of the boarding pass. Her movements were slow, precise. No panic, no embarrassment, only acknowledgement. They had made their first mistake, and it was a big one. The jet bridge hummed with a faint breeze, carrying the cold scent of metal and jet fuel. A short path, but always one that divided two worlds, the ground and the sky, a space where order and respect were supposed to be absolute. And right there at that threshold, Lauren had already broken the first rule, respect for passengers. And worse, she had no idea who she was disrespecting. To Lauren, Maya was just that type of troublesome passenger, a woman of color dressed simply, quiet, unreadable. Lauren saw only that. She needed no further evidence, no additional information. Her bias had made the decision for her. Maya stepped onto the plane with steady, unhurried steps. She did not rush. She did not need to. People who were in the wrong were always the ones who rushed. She wasn't. The cabin glowed under cool, white LED lights. Snippets of conversations, the thud of luggage into overhead bins, a child's soft cry. Everything was normal, except one thing. Lauren's stare tracking Maya as if guarding territory against an intruder. "Where's your seat?" Lauren demanded, voice stiff. Maya raised her phone, showing the digital boarding pass. 8 Bravo, premium cabin. Lauren glanced at it. A dismissive glance. A glance meant to prove she was right, the world was right, and Maya was wrong. Yeah, must be a system glitch. Then she turned to the white passenger behind Maya, her smile blooming, instantly warm as summer sun. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Carter. Looks like you're having a busy day." The contrast was a slap to everyone watching. Several passengers frowned, but no one spoke. In this world, people rarely intervened until it was too late. Maya continued to her row. Row 8, seat Bravo, the aisle seat. A perfect vantage point to observe everything. She placed her personal bag at her feet, slid her small suitcase neatly beneath the seat in front. Perfect. Precise. No violations. She pulled out a small black notebook, unbranded, and a slim pen, then began writing. 10:32. Anti-Meridium Chief Flight Attendant Lauren Shaw discriminatory tone when greeting passengers, racially inconsistent communication, unprofessional behavior at boarding door. Her pen glided like a scalpel. Each stroke was evidence. Maya wasn't angry. Emotion was a luxury her job didn't allow. She simply observed, verified, logged, like a cold, sentient camera. Lauren passed by again and caught sight of Maya writing. Her expression shifted. Not fear, she wasn't perceptive enough for fear. Just discomfort, the twitch of someone realizing their power was being examined under a microscope. "What are you writing?" Lauren asked, her voice low and darkening. Maya lifted her gaze, a silent look deep enough that anyone staring into it would see a reflection of themselves warped small and involuntarily afraid. Personal notes. The words were soft light, yet the temperature in the air plummeted. Lauren tightened her wrist and walked away. But Maya knew the real storm was only beginning. At the front of the cabin, Brian Carter settled into seat 7 Alpha. He looked at Maya as if to ask what she had done to annoy the crew. Maya returned the look, calm as still water. No explanation needed. No justification owed. History had taught her that some stares did not deserve answers. Lauren reappeared in the aisle, her steps heavier. Her unresolved anger pulsed under her skin, and Maya silent. Steady, unshakable was now a thorn she could not remove. The announcement chimed overhead. "We will be closing the door in a few minutes. Please settle into your seats." A quiet fell over the cabin, the kind of quiet that revealed something was wrong, a subtle misalignment, an unstable vibration, a precursor to disaster. Lauren stared at Maya. Not at a person, but at a target, and no one on that aircraft yet understood that the moment the cabin door sealed shut, they had locked themselves into a confrontation Lauren Shaw was destined to lose, and Maya Thompson was destined to rewrite. They had insulted the wrong person, severely. Someone who could end their careers with a single report, and Lauren tragically still had no idea. But the passengers, the crew, the airline, they were about to understand, very soon, very clearly, very painfully. Lauren walked down the aisle as if it were her territory, each heavy step sinking into the carpet and making the cabin feel smaller, tighter. She didn't look at passengers. She looked at the feeling of authority she believed she owned. Meanwhile, Maya sat silent, back straight eyes, sharp as ice, tracking every small movement. Not out of fear, but because through one person, she could already see how deeply the entire system was broken. Lauren stopped beside a young man, struggling to lift his suitcase into the overhead bin. Her voice snapped out like an order that bag is too big. The young man froze, hands trembling under the weight of both the luggage and the staring passengers. Lauren snatched the suitcase, slapped a tag on it, and tossed it to the ground staff without looking back. The harsh rip of the luggage tag cut through the air, reminding the cabin that she believed she had the power to decide anyone's fate with a flick of her wrist. A young mother was fighting with a stroller hinge while holding her baby hands, shaking. Lauren let out a loud theatrical sigh, turned away, but still threw back a line, sharp enough to shame, "Hurry up, we don't have all day." The mother whispered an apology, eyes red as she struggled. No one helped. No one spoke. But Maya recorded everything with eyes as clear and unblinking as tempered glass. Lauren turned back, Her gaze landed on Maya's neatly placed bag under the seat. Her voice thinned into a blade. "You need to put one of your bags overhead." Maya glanced down. Every item she had was within regulations, but Lauren ignored the obvious violations ahead of them, especially the oversized leather bag under Brian's feet in 7 Alpha, nearly twice the size, and sitting there proudly. The favoritism was so blatant, the cabin itself could feel it. Maya closed her notebook, gently stood up, and placed the bag in the overhead bin. No expression, no protest. But Lauren's eyes sparkled with the satisfaction of someone who believed she had just forced her target to bend. What she didn't understand was that Maya simply chose not to waste ammunition on something so small. When Maya sat again, she opened her black notebook. Her pen moved across the page in sharp, clean strokes. These were not notes. They were silent indictments, the foundation of a storm Lauren had no capacity to foresee. Lauren passed by, their eyes met. This time, a flicker of worry flashed in Lauren's gaze, thin as a scratch, but enough for Maya to notice. Not worry about her behavior, but worry because she didn't know what Maya was writing, didn't know who Maya was. Emily Brooks stepped out of the galley, young, genuine, still untouched by the corrosive pressure of false authority. Lauren leaned close to her voice, low and dripping with venom. Watch out for the 1 in 8 Bravo people like that love starting trouble. Emily hesitated. Her eyes drifted toward Maya. She saw no trouble, only a woman, sitting calm, quiet, intelligent enough to unsettle anyone insecure. Lauren continued to not side with her people. Like that, always try to turn something small into something big. Emily lowered her head, afraid to argue, but guilt sat plainly on her face, and Maya saw it all. Karen approached row 7. She bent toward Brian, telling him to call her if he needed anything. Her voice soft, her eyes bright, her smile textbook perfect. Then she straightened, walked to Maya's row, and the smile vanished, as if it had never existed. "What do you want?" Maya answered softly, "A coffee with cream and sugar." Lauren poured the coffee, as if she were pouring her irritation into the cup. When she handed it to Maya, she intentionally tilted her wrist. A drop of hot coffee splashed onto the back of Maya's hand. No apology. No napkin. Not even a flicker of regret. She turned her back and walked away, as if the moment did not exist. Maya didn't react. She reached for a tissue, wiped the drop away. Her silence was a blade so sharp, even the air seemed to retreat from it. Brian saw everything. He simply shrugged as though such things were normal. In his world, they were. Maya opened her notebook again. Her new lines were firmer, harsher, no longer notes. They were evidence of a sequence of failures she had witnessed thousands of times in her career. Lauren walked by again and sensed something slipping out of her control. She spun back, staring at Maya as though searching for signs of rebellion. But all she saw was a terrifying calm, the calm not of someone afraid, but of someone who held all the power and simply hadn't chosen to use it yet. The cabin trembled gently as the aircraft pushed back from the gate. The door closed with a finality that felt like a declaration. Every escape route was sealed. No one on that plane knew that in only a few hours their fate would be decided not by the woman they tried to diminish, but by the woman they had misjudged from the first moment. And Lauren, still standing there, gripping her illusion of authority, had no idea her career had already begun its countdown from the moment she tore Maya Thompson's boarding pass. A soft ping sounded from the back of the cabin. A trembling hand had pressed the call button. No one noticed except Maya. She turned her head, eyes sharp, scanning row 10. Mrs. Linda Howard, her face drained of colour, clutched her husband's arm. Mr. Frank Howard leaned close, his voice shaking. "Are you all right?" But she didn't answer. Her breathing quickened her gaze, unfocusing. The call light glowed green, clear, obvious, and unanswered. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 3. Emily was stuck in the aft galley, overwhelmed by rows of cans she was supposed to organize. She kept glancing toward the illuminated call light, but didn't dare move after Lauren had warned her not to show softness toward passengers. Lauren, the chief flight attendant, stood at the front of the cabin, leaning against the galley wall, reading a fashion magazine as if she were on break. Her eyes were on the pages, but her mind was fixed on Maya, not on passenger safety. 4 minutes. Mrs. Howard began sweating cold. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. Her fingers shook violently. Mr. Howard looked around helplessly, whispering, "Someone please help." No one stood. But Maya did. She unbuckled her belt and rose like a shadow light and precise. No panic. No rush. Only the trained certainty of someone who recognized the moment when life was slipping. She knelt beside Mrs. Howard, her voice low but firm. "Can you hear me? Do you have diabetes?" Mr. Howard nodded quickly. Her sugar dropped. "She needs orange juice, please." Maya pressed the call button again. This time she held it longer. Deliberate, forcing response. Seconds later, hurried footsteps. Lauren appeared with the irritation of someone who felt her authority had been challenged. "What do you think you're doing?" Her voice clanged like metal on metal. "Return to your seat right now. You are causing a disruption." Maya lifted her gaze, calm and cutting at once. "This passenger is experiencing hypoglycemic complications. She needs sugar immediately. Orange juice or glucose tablets." Lauren narrowed her eyes. She didn't look at the patient. She didn't assess. She looked only at Maya as if Maya were the true threat in the cabin. "I am the chief flight attendant. I make the assessment. Not you," Mr. Howard stammered. "Please, she needs sugar." Lauren ignored him. "Stand up right now. You are interfering with my duties. You are a passenger, not a medical professional." Maya held her stare. Her voice dropped, measured and sharp. "It is called saving a life. The call light has been on for more than 4 minutes. You did not respond." Lauren snapped as though the words had struck a nerve. "I did not see it." Maya looked directly at the overhead panel behind Lauren, where the green light still glowed. Her silence was the loudest accusation of all. Lauren's face flushed red, her voice turning jagged. "Return to your seat. You are making the patient more anxious. A blatant lie." Mrs. Howard was nearly unconscious, beyond worry, beyond awareness. Maya turned to Mr. Howard. "I will bring orange juice. Keep her head slightly tilted." Lauren exploded. "No. I said no. I will bring the juice." But what Lauren returned with was a can of diet ginger ale, sugar-free. Mr. Howard stared in disbelief. "This won't work. She needs real sugar." Lauren growled each word as if spitting them out. "This is all I have. Take it or leave it." The cabin shifted. Eyes turned towards them. Astonishment spread across strangers' faces. Some had seen unfair treatment before, but none imagined it could reach this level. Maya drew a long breath, long enough to extinguish the anger that anyone else would have unleashed. She stood and moved toward the aft galley like a cold arrow. Emily froze when she saw Maya. "Bring me orange juice. There is a passenger in medical distress." Emily's face paled. But Lauren, that was an order. This time, Emily didn't hesitate. She grabbed a can of orange juice, opened it, and handed it to Maya with both hands. "Thank you." Maya said, her voice softening for the first time. Not for Emily, but for the seconds that still mattered to save Mrs. Howard. When Maya returned to row 10, Lauren blocked the aisle, her face white, her eyes wide with disbelief that someone like this dared to defy her. You have violated a direct instruction from me. No, Maya said quietly. I just saved a life. Lauren trembled with rage, not because of the medical emergency, but because the power she imagined she wielded had slipped into the hands of the person she considered beneath her. Maya handed the orange juice to Mr. Howard. Mrs. Linda drank in tiny sips. Within a minute, colour returned to her cheeks. Her breathing steadied, her eyes fluttered open. A quiet miracle, or rather the result of basic knowledge someone responsible should have had. Meanwhile, Lauren turned her face away, lips pressed tight, swallowing her humiliation. Passengers whispered. They saw everything. They understood everything. The truth had exposed itself beyond repair. Maya returned to her seat. Lauren stared at her with the seething hatred of someone who had lost, but could not accept defeat. The air in the cabin shifted. Heartbeats shifted. And somewhere deep inside the more perceptive passengers, a realization rose. Lauren Shaw had crossed the wrong person. Not just wrong, but wrong in a way that would make her entire life collapse in free fall. Maya silent, as a shadow opened her black notebook and wrote new lines. Not fast, not slow. But each stroke fell like a hammer, preparing to seal the door of justice Lauren never saw coming. And this, Maya knew, was only the beginning. The first jolt hit without warning, like an invisible punch from the sky. The cabin lurched. A few passengers screamed. Cups tipped, belts rattled, nerves snapped. But that was only the opening act. The real danger was waiting just ahead, sitting in the galley, where Lauren Shaw had forgotten the most basic duty of any chief flight attendant, locking the brake on the service cart. Maya knew it before anyone else did. When the second wave of turbulence slammed through the aircraft, she heard it, the tiny metallic click, the sound of wheels beginning to roll, even though no one was touching them. She glanced forward. The galley curtain was slightly open. Cabin lights spilled inside, revealing the outline of the heavy drink cart. It was moving. Slowly at first, then faster. And then, as if freed from gravity itself, it shot down the aisle, a missile of steel and glass. No brakes, no handler, no barrier. Brian Carter in 7 Alpha saw it first. He shot upright on instinct, but too late. His legs were still in the aisle. His face went white. His eyes widened. His mouth opened, but made no sound. Screams erupted. Emily in the back grabbed an empty seat to keep herself from falling under the shaking aircraft. But Maya, she didn't scream. She didn't flinch. She didn't hesitate. In the fraction of a second, when everyone else reacted with fear, she reacted with training. She unbuckled, pivoted, angled her body into the exact position needed to intercept. One powerful motion. Clean. Absolute. She swung her leg out, driving all her weight into her thigh and knee, turning her body into the only barrier between the runaway cart and the helpless passengers. The impact rang out like metal smashing stone. The entire cabin heard it, heavy, brutal, slicing through the air. The cart bounced back. Glass inside shattered the steel frame, slammed against a seat with a cracking sound. Maya didn't scream, but her breath fractured into a soft, pained gasp. It hurt badly. Fire burst from her knee and radiated outward. But the cart stopped it, and everyone in its path remained alive, untouched, a frozen moment stretched tight as wire. Then the cabin erupted into startled voices. Emily rushed forward, face pale. My God, did anyone lock the cart brake? Where is Lauren? But Lauren didn't appear immediately. When she finally stepped out, her expression was not shock, not gratitude, not concern for the injured passenger. It was fear, the kind born not from danger, but from the possibility that consequences were coming for her. She looked at the cart, then at Maya, clutching her knee, then at the passengers still recovering from their brush with disaster. And she chose the worst thing a human being can choose. What did you do? Did you pull the cart out of the galley? The cabin went silent. Air froze. Brian Carter shot upright, his voice trembling with fury. Are you out of your mind? I saw it clearly. The cart rolled out of the galley. She just saved the entire cabin. Lauren rolled her eyes, forcing her voice steady. The cart cannot move on its own. I know procedures. She was standing right here. She must have pulled it out herself. Maya looked at Lauren the way a doctor looks at a fatal malfunction. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The evidence sat in plain sight. The brake unlocked the wheels, still spinning gently from momentum. Emily knelt beside the cart, her eyes widening. Clear. Undeniable. The fault was not Maya's. The fault was Lauren's. But Lauren lunged forward anyway, pointing at Maya, voice exploding. You endangered the flight. You have been defiant since the start. I will report you to the captain. You will be removed when we land. You are a threat to flight safety. A sharp laugh cut through the air from the back rows. Not a joyful one, but the laugh of someone hearing a lie so outrageous it became absurd. Brian barked. You almost killed half the cabin, and now you blame the one person who tried to save everyone. I will testify for her. I will report this to upper management the second we land. Lauren stiffened, but she clung to the hollow authority she believed she still had. You do not understand. I am the chief flight attendant. The authority to assess the situation is mine. And you have misjudged everything, Maya said, her voice low, but carrying enough weight to silence the entire cabin. The cart rolled freely. The passenger in row 10 was neglected. The cabin was thrown into avoidable danger. Those are facts. Maya's calm, even while pain radiated through her knee, sent a chill down everyone's spine. Not the calm of someone weak, the calm of someone preparing to end a career. Lauren swallowed hard. She knew Maya wasn't an ordinary passenger. She knew something was wrong, something beyond her control, but she still had no idea who Maya really was. Only that this woman radiated a kind of power no threat could break. At that moment, Captain Robert Ellis opened the cockpit door, rushing out at the sound of chaos. He saw the shattered cart, the shaken passengers, Maya gripping her leg, and Lauren standing in the aisle, looking lost and frantic. What happened here? Lauren jumped in first, the way guilty people always try to drown the truth with volume. She pulled the cart out and caused all of this. I request immediate disciplinary action. All eyes turned to Maya, but not with accusation, with anticipation, waiting for her next words. And Maya delivered the one sentence that made Lauren turn ghost white. Do you want the true version, or the version she just invented? The captain looked at Lauren, then at Maya, then at the cart. Silence stretched like a steel cable around Lauren's throat. Maya pressed her hand against a seat, rising to her feet, despite the pain shooting through her leg. She looked at Lauren, her gaze peeling away every layer of pretense the woman had worn since the start of the flight. In that moment, everyone felt it. The power in the cabin had shifted. It no longer rested with the chief flight attendant. It rested with the silent, steady blade, sharp woman standing in row 8. And everyone sensed the same thing. Lauren Shaw had crossed the final line. There was no return, no defense, no escape. Only one inevitable outcome left, and Maya Thompson would be the one to deliver the verdict. The cramped cabin sank into a silence stretched so tight it felt like a wire ready to snap, the kind of silence that only appears when people have just witnessed something unacceptable and know something worse is still coming. Maya eased herself back into her seat, her breath held tight to keep the pain from spreading. Her knee was swelling, burning hot, as if a flame lived beneath the skin. But she refused to show it. The smallest hint of weakness would become ammunition for Lauren. She placed the ice pack Emily had brought onto her knee, never looking down, refusing to acknowledge the throbbing. Her gaze fixed forward, as if an invisible map was unfolding in her mind, and every route was recalculating itself. Lauren stood at the front, her back pressed against the galley wall, her breathing sharp with fear, even as she forced herself to look authoritative. She had no argument left, no story left to twist. But the downfall of someone addicted to power is never graceful, always chaotic. Emily sat in the nearby jump seat, eyes red hands, trembling from everything she had seen. Maya caught it, just a quick glance, but enough to recognize a young woman trapped between conscience and fear. She knew that type well. She had seen them on countless flights, good people crushed by a bad system. Lauren pushed the galley curtain aside and stepped out, trying to summon her authority again. But the tension around her eyes betrayed her. She looked at Maya and saw that terrifying calm, and instinctively she lashed out. "You should know getting out of your seat during turbulence is a violation. You obstructed the crew. I warned you." Her voice was loud enough for nearby passengers to hear a last, desperate attempt to salvage her image. But Brian's voice cut through from the row ahead like a slap. "She saved someone's life. And saved us from the cart you forgot to lock. If anyone endangered us, it was you." Lauren spun toward Brian, eyes flashing with hostility. But he stared back without blinking. The only result was Lauren swallowing everything she wanted to say and turning away, her face burning red. Maya did not respond. She didn't need to. With every passing minute, the cabin saw more clearly who was right and who was wrong. Her silence was the sharpest accusation. The plane steadied again, the engine noise evening out. But no one relaxed. Eyes kept shifting between Lauren and Maya, between the woman desperate to look innocent and the woman who said nothing yet felt more powerful than any authority on board. Lauren lifted the crew phone, dialing the internal line. Her voice was tight but heavy with implication. "I need to report a disruptive passenger in row 8. No one heard the reply, but everyone heard Lauren emphasize she refused to cooperate. She caused her own injury by pulling the cart. "I request this be recorded as a violation." Emily inhaled sharply, as if she wanted to object, but fear held her quiet. Maya simply watched Lauren. That look alone made Lauren's breath hitch, as if an invisible hand squeezed her throat. Lauren still did not know who Maya was, but she understood one thing clearly. Now this woman was not the kind of passenger she could push around. The cabin trembled slightly again. Whispers rippled through the rows. A truth was spreading across the plane. Lauren no longer controlled the flight. The louder she spoke, the more authority she lost, and the quieter Maya remained, the more everyone gravitated toward her, as if she were the real center of gravity in the cabin. Emily finally gathered enough courage to whisper to Maya, does it hurt badly? I'm so sorry for everything. I couldn't. Maya answered with a calm, steady tone. You did the right thing when you brought the orange juice. Do not apologize. You didn't cause this chaos. Emily lowered her head, relieved by that single sentence, her guilt loosening its grip. Lauren saw the moment and exploded inside. She stormed toward Maya, leaned down, and hissed in a low, venomous voice, sharp enough to cut. You think you've won. You think your little notes scare me. Wait until we land. You will have police waiting. I will make sure of it. Maya lifted her eyes to meet hers, a silent gaze, so powerful it forced Lauren to step back, half a step. You are making this worse for yourself, Maya said quietly. Not for me. For you. Lauren let out a shaky laugh, her confidence cracked. You don't understand how power works. In that instant, Maya leaned her head slightly, voice lowering to a surgical blade. No, it is you who does not understand. The cabin went dead silent. Each word seemed to vibrate through the rows. Then, as if the sky itself wanted to underscore the truth, the aircraft speakers crackled with the voice of Captain Robert Ellis. We are beginning our descent. Cabin crew, take your seats. Lauren turned quickly to hide the tremor in her expression, but everyone had already seen it. Maya placed the notebook back on her lap and wrote several more lines, steady and deliberate. Actions, words, violations, all of it documented, all of it becoming a formal report inside her mind. The truth was as bright as the cabin lights. Lauren was digging her own grave. And Maya, the woman she assumed was an easy target, was simply waiting for the right moment to pull back the final curtain. They did not know. Lauren did not know. Even the captain did not know. But the truth was coming. It could not be stopped. It could not be erased. And when it arrived, everyone on that plane would realize they had chosen the wrong side from the very beginning. Very wrong. Beyond saving. The aircraft began its descent. The lighting shifted, and the cabin sank into a silence, heavy as an unspoken courtroom, the kind where no verdict has been declared, but everyone already feels it tightening around them. Seatbelts clicked into place one by one. The air was no longer just air. It was waiting. Pressure. A tension so dense that a single wrong word could blow everything apart. Lauren walked down the aisle trying to complete her final duties before landing. But every step she took was like stepping on cracking glass. The passengers she had dismissed all flight long watched her now as if she were a ticking device, counting backward. Emily followed behind her, trembling, but performing each task with precision, checking belts, tray tables, every passenger. When she reached row 8 near Maya, she whispered with a shaking voice, "Are you okay? Your leg, it's swelling badly." Maya answered softly, letting the young woman know she was not as alone as she felt. "Just do your job. That's enough." Emily nodded quickly and moved on, her eyes red. Lauren saw the exchange from a distance, and hatred flared up in her chest, not hatred for Maya, but hatred for the reality she could no longer control. The captain's voice filled the cabin. Prepare for landing, deep and heavy, as if he too sensed something waiting for them on the ground. The cabin tilted gently. The wheels touched the runway. A small jolt ran through the aircraft, enough to make Lauren glance back at Maya one last time before the seatbelt sign went off. That look was full of spite fear, and the last remnants of a collapsing illusion of authority. As the aircraft slowed and turned toward the gate, Lauren activated the intercom, her voice high shaky, but wrapped by enforced authority. For security reasons, all passengers must remain seated. We will be addressing a special situation involving the passenger in seat 8, Bravo. The cabin erupted with whispers. Everyone understood. This was not a security announcement. It was retaliation. Brian Carter slammed his hand against the armrest, his voice filled with outrage. What do you think you're doing? The one who needs to be dealt with is you. Lauren ignored him. Her eyes locked onto Maya with a cruelty she no longer cared to hide. You will be removed from this aircraft. I have reported you as a disruptive passenger and a violator of federal regulations. Maya remained seated, her breathing slow, her expression calm, as though she were studying a malfunction rather than a person. No surprise, no fear, not even anger. That look alone made Lauren step back, though she didn't understand why. The engines quieted, the cabin door opened, and not just one but 3 people stepped in. 2 airport police officers, and a man in a dark suit with a badge catching the light. Daniel Price, Ground Operations Supervisor. Lauren rushed toward them like someone reclaiming her crown. There. Passenger 8, Bravo. She caused disturbances, disobeyed crew instructions, injured herself, and nearly caused an accident with the service cart. I request she be removed immediately. But the passengers around them exploded. That's not true. You dropped the cart. That woman saved us. The voices hit like a wave. Lauren's face drained of color, but her posture remained stiff, as if a uniform could still protect her. Daniel raised a hand for silence. His eyes shifted to Maya. Mom, we need to ask you to step off the aircraft and provide a statement. Maya nodded, but when she tried to stand her injured leg, objected sharply. She had to grip 2 seat backs just to stay upright. From behind, Emily blurted out, unable to hold it in. Her leg is injured because she stopped the cart. Lauren forgot to lock the brake. The cabin erupted again. The officers turned toward Lauren immediately. Her face went pale. Brian Carter stood up, his voice clear and commanding. I will testify. I saw everything. That woman did nothing wrong. Lauren stammered. You don't understand. But Daniel was no longer listening to her. He looked at Maya once more. Mom, do you have anything you would like to present? Maya did not look at Lauren. She did not look at Daniel. She did not look at the officers. Instead, she opened the lock on her briefcase. No one knew what she was doing. Lauren watched a dawning sense of something slipping out of her grasp, something far bigger than she ever imagined. Maya pulled out a small, sleek, black leather folio. She opened it. The entire cabin fell silent. The white cabin light reflected off a golden badge, the badge of the Federal Aviation Administration. In that instant, every sound died. No engine hum, no whispers, nothing. Only the absolute truth. The woman Lauren had insulted, belittled, threatened, accused, abandoned, and tried to force off the plane was not an ordinary passenger. Not a victim. Not someone powerless. She was someone with the authority to inspect discipline and suspend any member of the flight crew. Maya Thompson closed the folio, her voice, quiet but heavy as law. We will proceed with the investigation now. Lauren could no longer stand straight. She leaned against the wall as if the entire aircraft were tilting, and everyone in that cabin finally understood they had not witnessed an argument. They had witnessed the moment truth crushed abuse of power. The office door at the airport snapped shut with a cold, flat sound, like the gate of a prison closing behind someone who had run out of escape routes. The room was small, windowless, lit by harsh, white, fluorescent lights. There was nowhere to hide, no space where anyone could outrun the truth within these 4 walls. Emily Brooks sat curled at the edge of her chair, eyes red hands clasped so tightly together it looked as if she feared they might shake themselves off her wrists. Captain Ellis sat across from her, his shoulders tensed as if he were carrying a weight he no longer had the strength to hold. Supervisor Daniel Price stood beside the desk, gripping a clipboard, but too afraid to write. No one dared move. No one dared speak. Not until Maya Thompson did. And Lauren Shaw, the chief flight attendant, the woman who once believed herself untouchable, sat at the far end of the table. Her hands were clenched so hard her knuckles had turned white. Her back was straight, not from confidence but from fear that if she leaned even slightly, she might collapse onto the floor. Maya entered last. No one looked directly at her yet. Everyone felt her presence like a shift in atmospheric pressure, as though someone of an entirely different order had walked into the room. She sat down, placed her briefcase beside her injured leg, retrieved her black notebook and set it on the table. No one spoke. No one even breathed deeply. Then Maya opened the notebook. The sound of the page turning seemed loud enough to make Lauren's hands tighten once more. "Begin," Maya said. Not loud, not quick, but firm enough that the room felt forced to stand at attention. She read each entry, each violation, each piece of evidence. Not in the tone of storytelling, but in the tone of law. The tone of the system. The voice of someone with the authority to rewrite another person's career with a single stroke of a pen. Chief Flight Attendant Lauren Shaw Maya began her gaze fixed on the trembling woman at the end of the table. Your misconduct is not isolated. It is a pattern, continuous, systematic, intentional. Lauren swallowed a small sob, but Maya did not pause. Discrimination toward a passenger at the boarding door, unequal application of regulations, verbal aggression, deliberate humiliation. With every sentence Maya delivered, the skin beneath Lauren's eyes twitched, ignoring a call light from a passenger experiencing a medical issue, neglecting a medical emergency, providing an inappropriate drink to a person with hypoglycemia, threatening a passenger, assisting someone in distress. Emily lowered her head, tears falling into her hands. Maya turned to the young woman, her voice softening by a single degree no more. "Miss Brooks, do you confirm these events are true?" Emily let out a shaky breath, but answered clearly, "Yes, yes, ma'am. I saw everything." I was afraid of Lauren. "But everything you wrote is true." Maya nodded once, neither judging nor comforting, simply acknowledging. She looked then at Captain Ellis. "Captain, were you aware that your cabin was left unattended for nearly 5 minutes during a medical emergency?" Captain Ellis shook his head slowly, his face draining of color. "No, I was not aware. I only received a report that there was a disruptive passenger." Maya cut him off. "And you believed it immediately." There was no mistaking the blow. It struck directly at a long-standing negligence buried deep in the crew culture. Captain Ellis bowed his head. Maya turned back to Lauren. That look was so cold, Daniel Price had to swallow hard just to steady himself. And finally, the most serious violation. Maya continued, her voice dropping to a level sharp as a scalpel. "You failed to lock the brake on the service cart before turbulence." Lauren cried out in desperation. I just forgot I have flown for 20 years. I have never." "You did not forget," Maya replied. "You were distracted. You were busy speaking ill of me to another flight attendant. And because of that, a cart weighing over 100 kilograms hurtled down the cabin. The potential outcome was permanent injury or death." And you know that. Lauren's breath hitched her hands, trembling uncontrollably. Maya placed her pen on the table. A small movement, yet the sound landed like a judge's gavel. You created a toxic, dangerous, unprofessional environment. What happened on that flight was not an accident. It was the predictable result of arrogance, prejudice, and disregard for safety protocols. Therefore, Lauren shot to her feet. Please, I have flown for 20 years. I've never had a major incident. It was just a bad day. A mistake. Maya rose. Not with anger, not with pity, but with the steady authority of someone delivering the final verdict of a case already closed. No, Miss Shaw. A mistake is forgetting an extra napkin. A mistake is spilling a drink and apologizing. What you did was willful, repeated, and dangerous. The cart rolling freely was not a bad day. It was the natural consequence of the failures you created. The room froze. Maya straightened, and the entire space seemed to revolve around her. Miss Lauren Shaw, effective immediately, your authorization to serve on any commercial flight is suspended. You are subject to certificate review, and after my report is filed, I do not expect your license to be renewed. Lauren collapsed into her chair, a choked sob stuck in her throat. 20 years reduced to ash in a matter of sentences. Maya turned to Daniel Price. Retrieve her cedar badge and crew ID. Now. Daniel obeyed, his hands trembling, as he unclipped the badge from Lauren's lanyard. The room felt drained of air. Maya looked at Emily. And you, Miss Brooks? You did not cause these events, but you stayed silent. And silence is complicity. You will undergo retraining and supervision for 6 months. I hope you take from this what you need to. Emily nodded, tears falling, but there was relief in them rather than fear. Maya faced Captain Ellis last. You still have a chance to correct things, but if the crew culture I witnessed today continues, you will be next. The captain bowed his head deeply, as if receiving a sentence, hovering just above him. Maya closed her notebook, placed it back in her briefcase. She turned to leave her injured leg, making her steps slow, but no one in the room saw someone weakened. They saw authority, order, justice. She opened the door, paused for one measured breath without turning back. Your greatest mistake, Lauren, was believing you could challenge someone you did not understand. By the time you realized the truth, it was already too late. The door closed behind her. Only Lauren's stifled sobs remained in the small room, heavy as a sentence that would never be undone. The airport hallway stretched out like a cold, endless tunnel, the white lights casting sharp flashes across Maya's face each time she passed beneath another lamp. Every step sent a jolt of pain shooting from her knee up through her hip, but she did not slow. She did not stop. She did not let her body dictate what her purpose demanded. Justice waits for no one, and it certainly does not pause for an injury. Ahead of her, Daniel Price walked with the uneasy stiffness of a man trying to repair a disaster he did not cause, but now had to carry. A staff member pushed a transport chair beside them, but Maya shook her head. She refused not out of pride, but because she needed to walk on her own injured leg to let everyone watching understand exactly what abuse of power had caused. She took a seat in a quiet corner of a temporary VIP briefing room. Grey leather chairs, a heavy wooden table, warm golden lights. No chaos like the public terminal outside, but the atmosphere here was heavier than any interrogation room. Emily entered, carrying a stack of medical statements and internal reports. She placed them gently on the table, then stood pressed against the wall as if afraid to take up too much space. Maya looked at her with an expression that held no blame, only recognition, the acknowledgement of a young soul still intact within a broken system. Then the door opened. 2 figures stepped inside. The Howards. Mr. Frank guiding his wife, Mrs. Linda, still weak but with eyes that lit up once she saw Maya. Eyes filled with gratitude, with the weight of life given back, and with the understanding that this woman had not only saved her, but had protected the dignity of an entire cabin. Maya stood despite the pain, the room dimming at the edges of her vision for a heartbeat. Mrs. Howard, "I am very glad you are all right," she said softly, and for the first time that day, warmth entered her voice. Mr. Frank grasped Maya's hand tightly. "You saved my wife. If you hadn't come in time," he choked up. "He didn't need to finish. No one needed him to." Maya questioned them carefully. When the call light turned on, what Mrs. Howard felt, what Lauren said, what she refused to do. Every detail they gave Maya wrote in black ink. No anger, no trembling. Her hand moved steadily, methodically, reconstructing the truth with lines no one could twist. The door opened again. Brian Carter entered. Gone was the polished confidence of a wealthy executive from the plane. Now he stood as a responsible citizen, a witness ready to confront wrongdoing even when it wore a Navy uniform. He pulled out a chair across from Maya. "I'll give a full statement. Not a single detail left out. You saved our lives. I'll make sure no one can distort what happened." Maya looked up. She did not smile, but her eyes softened slightly. Daniel brought in 3 glasses of water. 1 for Maya, 1 for the Howards, 1 for Brian. Emily hovered uncertainly, unsure if she was allowed to sit. Maya pulled the chair beside her, out an inch, a small gesture. But enough. Emily sat. The room was now complete. Every necessary witness was present. Maya began. "I need each of you to recount everything, from the moment the medical incident began until the moment we landed." Mrs. Linda spoke first, her voice weak but clear. She described pressing the call button, waiting, no one coming, hearing arguments, and seeing Maya kneel beside her, asking exactly the right questions. Mr. Frank added timestamps. Brian contributed the perspective of nearly being hit by the runaway cart. Emily said nothing at first, but when Maya looked at her, she nodded, voice trembling. "It's all true, not a single word is wrong," Maya wrote. Page after page, her pen carved a precise, cold, undeniable report. While she worked, Daniel's phone buzzed. He checked it, and his face shifted. "Miss Thompson, the airline has officially suspended Lauren Shaw. They didn't wait for the report. It's immediate." No one looked surprised. They had all seen enough to know it had to happen. But Maya showed no satisfaction. She simply asked, "What about the rest of the crew?" Daniel hesitated before answering. "They are awaiting your evaluation." Maya straightened. The black notebook lay open in front of her like a classified dossier. "Then we continue," she said. The room quieted. Testimonies continued. Her pen kept moving. The truth peeled back layer by layer. When everything was complete, Maya closed the notebook. A small sound, yet it marked the end of a conclusion no one in the room, not even Daniel, had the authority to question. Mrs. Linda stood, stepped forward, and embraced Maya gently. "Thank you. Not just for today, but for existing." Maya placed a hand on her back, so lightly it was almost air. "I only did what was right." Brian rose, folding his arms. "If you need me to testify, I'll be there, wherever it is." Emily looked at Maya with a reverence so deep it bordered on awe, as if seeing a kind of person she never knew existed. And Daniel. He looked at Maya like a storm had passed through, destructive yet cleansing. Maya lifted her briefcase, stood using her uninjured leg. Her voice lowered to a tone of quiet authority. "I will finalize the report today. The airline will receive it before midnight. The FAA will take it from there. From this point on, everything is clear." No one spoke further. No one dared disturb the air of truth that had just been solidified. Maya walked out of the room, and as the door closed behind her, the echo of her steps, measured, steady, powerful, lingered like the footsteps of a woman who had just ended a long-standing form of abuse that had lived too long on commercial flights. Maya left the meeting room, but her work was far from finished. The long hallway of the domestic terminal greeted her with a blast of cold air, flowing past the giant glass panels overlooking the runway. Other aircraft sat still like sleeping metal beasts, but the feeling tightening in Maya's chest was not relief. It was the weight of responsibility that had not yet reached its end. Daniel followed at a respectful distance, as if Maya's presence alone compelled him to slow his pace. He opened the door to a small airline office, unmarked and undecorated, the kind of room reserved for signing documents that carried consequences. "Right this way," Daniel said quietly. Maya nodded, stepped inside, and closed the door gently behind her. She placed her briefcase on the table, opened it, and laid out her black notebook, her laptop, and the federal report template. She knew every one of these tools intimately. Too intimately. A soft knock sounded. Emily entered, holding a stack of paperwork. "These are the statements you requested." Maya took them, flipped through each page. Good. Clear handwriting. No emotional phrasing. Only facts. Emily stood straight as if trying to keep her hands from trembling. "Miss Thompson, thank you for not giving me a harsher penalty." Maya studied the young woman for a long moment. "You have the right heart, but a good heart won't save you if you don't have a strong spine. Do not let anyone use a uniform to silence you again." Emily swallowed hard, her eyes red but bright. "Yes, I understand now." Maya said nothing more. She opened her laptop, her fingers moving quickly and precisely. Lines of text formed on the screen, detailing the chain of events describing behaviors identifying safety risks. No dramatic wording, no anger, no embellishment, just data observation conclusion. And that cold clarity was what made the report the sharpest blade. Daniel lingered outside the doorway, unsure whether he should interrupt or leave. Eventually, he knocked softly. "I need to inform you the airline has summoned the senior cabin management board. They want you to attend a direct review session to present the charges." Maya paused her typing. "Right now in 20 minutes. She closed the laptop. "Take me there." The Western Air Executive Conference Room looked like the stage of a tribunal. A long walnut table, black leather chairs in perfect alignment, a large screen waiting for documents to be displayed. 3 senior managers were already seated, one from training, one from human resources discipline, and one representing airline safety. They all looked up as Maya stepped inside their eyes, tensing like drawn bowstrings. Not out of fear, but because they understood that the woman entering the room was not a witness, not a complaining passenger, not a victim. She was someone with the authority to reduce their internal processes to ashes. Daniel pulled out a chair for her. Maya sat, placing her briefcase beside her like a sheathed knife whose blade everyone could already feel. One manager spoke first. "Dr. Thompson, we have received the preliminary information. The situation is severe. Are you prepared to present?" Maya opened her black notebook. I have never presented anything I was not prepared for. No one dared challenge that, Maya began. The incident aboard Western Air Flight 2294 was not an accident. It was the collapse of professional standards, intentional violations, systemic failure, and dangerous behavior by the person responsible for leading the crew chief, flight attendant, Lauren Shaw. One manager frowned. How severe is the danger level based on your assessment? Maya lifted her gaze. Severe enough to cause permanent injury. A pause. Severe enough to cause death. The room fell silent. Maya continued. I prevented a passenger from experiencing a critical hypoglycemic episode. I halted a 200-pound service cart that was rolling freely toward the cabin. I observed the chief flight attendant harass, threaten, and discriminate against passengers based on race and ignore a medical call light for nearly 5 minutes. One manager covered his mouth. Another stared down at the table. Daniel, leaning against the wall, flinched. Maya turned the page. My recommendations are clearly stated in the written report, but I will say them aloud to avoid any misinterpretation. She closed the notebook. Lauren Shaw is not to be permitted on any commercial aircraft again. Not for 6 months. Not for 1 year. Permanently. The air seemed to freeze. She is a Category A safety risk. I will submit my report directly to the FAA and follow the case until I receive the final ruling. One manager's voice quivered. Miss Thompson, do you believe that conclusion is too harsh? Maya turned her head and looked straight at him. Her gaze carried weight. Cold. Precise. Without space for debate. If the cart had struck the head of a child, you would have a different opinion. No one spoke again. Maya rose. I will send the complete report within 2 hours. You should prepare yourselves, because the FAA will conduct random inspections on your entire crew roster within 3 weeks. A manager swallowed hard. We understand. Maya lifted her briefcase and walked toward the door. Daniel hurried after her. Miss Thompson, how do you stay so calm after being treated the way they treated you? Maya stopped, turned slightly. She did not smile. She was not angry. She was not proud. Because if I lose my composure, they get to call me the problem. One breath. But when I do not lose it, I become the solution. Daniel was silent, unsure how to respond. Maya continued walking each painful step sharp and deliberate. Every step was a punctuation mark carved into truth. She had not only confronted a single abuser, she had touched the fracture line deep inside an entire system, and the system knew she would be back. Maya left the terminal building the way someone leaves a battlefield that has already been cleared of debris, but there was no victory here. Only responsibility. Only the lingering weight of cold metal settling against her skin. The sky outside had shifted into a grey-blue of late afternoon, the kind of light that made the entire airport feel like an endless desert of steel. Every step sent pain slicing through her knee, but she refused to slow down. Daniel walked close behind. He wasn't escorting her out of obligation, but because anything that moved within Maya Thompson's orbit seemed caught in a stronger gravity. He wanted to witness the end, to make sure justice was not diluted once it left the meeting room. A staff member hurried towards them. Miss Thompson, someone is waiting for you in the medical room. They said you need to have your injury checked. Maya nodded. No protest. No frustration. She understood her body had been pushed to its limit, and she needed it functioning for several more hours to complete all pending reports. The medical room was small, warm lit, smelling faintly of antiseptic. A middle-aged doctor examined her knee, his expression stunned at the swelling that had formed around it. You walked all the way here on this, with your knee this swollen. The work isn't finished, Maya replied. The doctor wrapped her knee, instructed her to ice it every 20 minutes. She listened, committing each word to memory. As he was leaving, he paused in the doorway. I heard what happened on the plane. You saved someone's life. Not everyone would have done that. Maya didn't answer. She did not need praise. She needed accuracy. When she stepped back into the hallway, she found Emily waiting, pressed against the wall, like she feared she might be in the way. Miss Thompson, I just wanted to thank you again, and apologize. Maya studied her not with judgment, but with the eyes of someone who sees potential that has not yet taken shape. You have something many crew members today didn't, Maya said. You recognize wrongdoing, and you want to do what is right. Emily bowed her head, as tears welled up, tears not of fear, but of relief. Do you think I still deserve to fly? What matters is not how many times you failed, Maya said. It is which side you choose after you see the failure. Emily nodded hard, as if receiving the map she had been waiting for her whole life. When Maya continued down the hallway, Daniel caught up again. Maya, the FAA will stand behind you in this right. She paused. The FAA does not stand behind me, Maya said. I stand for the FAA. Daniel exhaled suddenly, understanding something he had never understood. Before, responsibility was not the title printed on a badge. It was the price a person paid when they decided to confront the truth. They reached the main concourse. Large LED lights cast a soft golden glow overhead. Passengers flowed past them like a river that never stopped. No one knew what had just unfolded on a mid-sized aircraft. No one knew a life had been saved. No one knew someone had lost a career because of the harm they caused. But that was the nature of justice. It did not need an audience. It only needed to exist. Brian Carter approached from the seating area, holding a cup of coffee. He handed Maya a bottle of water. You need this more than I do, he said. Maya accepted with a small nod. I'm going to follow this case through, Brian said. If the FAA or the airline needs anything, I'll be a witness. You've done enough, Maya replied. He shook his head. No. Today I learned the price of staying silent. Maya understood. Silence had been today's sickness, but it had been broken. At the end of the hallway, the glass doors opened toward the runway. Wind, carrying the smell of jet fuel, rushed through sharp and real. Maya stood there watching through the glass as other planes prepared for takeoff. Tomorrow, new crew members would board new flights. New mistakes would happen. New moments where a single human decision could determine life or death. And Maya would need to be there. Not for authority, not for status, but for the safety of people who would never know her name. Daniel spoke again. Miss Thompson, do you think Lauren Shaw ever knew who you were? Maya looked out toward the runway. No, she said. And that is why she behaved the way she did. Daniel swallowed, and if she had known Maya turned back, her gaze sharp, steady, powerful like truth, standing in human form. Then she would have done her job correctly from the start. A plane lifted off the ground, its engines roaring and vibrating through the glass. Maya watched it rise, her expression neither softened nor hardened. It was the look of someone who understood the world was wide enough that it would always need someone willing to fix what was broken. She lifted her briefcase onto her shoulder, turned away from the runway, and stepped into the sea of travelers moving from gate to gate, every step painful but unwavering. No one knew her name. No one recognized her. But because a woman like Maya Thompson existed, thousands would take to the sky safely without ever realizing why. And as her silhouette merged into the crowd, only one truth remained. It wasn't just Lauren Shaw who had been exposed. It was an entire system that had just been brought to light. From the perspective of an aviation safety expert, this story is more than a warning about a single abusive flight attendant. It exposes a deeper truth. Flight safety is not built only on engines, equipment, or procedures. It is built on the integrity of the people entrusted with authority. When even one individual fails to uphold that responsibility, the entire system can collapse. And sometimes it takes someone like Maya Thompson to pull it back onto the right course. If you believe that fairness and discipline are the foundation of every safe flight, make sure to like and subscribe so you can continue following stories that bring justice into the light. And leave a short comment. Stay standard.